Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hub, and before you toss that old penny jar into the donation bin or spend those coins on a candy bar, let me ask you something that might just change your entire financial future. What if I told you that hiding somewhere in America's loose change, sitting quietly in forgotten piggy banks, tucked away in dusty attic boxes, or even circulating right now in everyday transactions, there's a 1967 penny that sold for an absolutely mind-blowing $10 million? Yes, you heard that correctly. $10 million for a single 1-cent coin. Now I know what you're thinking. How could a penny, something we barely even notice anymore, something that most people won't even bend down to pick up off the sidewalk, possibly be worth more than mansions, luxury cars, and exotic vacations combined? But stick with me because the story behind this incredible 1967 1-cent piece is so fascinating, so filled with mystery and unexpected twists that by the time we're done here, you'll be racing to check every single penny you own. And here's the thing. This isn't just about one amazing coin, because after I reveal everything about this 1967 treasure, we're going to talk about another coin from 1984 that has its own shocking value. A coin with a story so unbelievable that collectors have literally fought legal battles over it. So make sure you stay until the very end because you definitely don't want to miss what's coming. Now let's dive deep into the world of the 1967 penny, a year that most people remember for the summer of love, the release of the first Super Bowl, and major cultural shifts happening across America. But in the quiet halls of the United States Mint, something extraordinary was taking place. Something that would create numismatic history. The 1967 Lincoln cent was supposed to be just another ordinary production run, billions of these copper-plated zinc discs rolling off the presses in Philadelphia and other mint facilities, destined for cash registers, piggy banks, and parking meters across the nation. But somewhere in that massive production process, an error occurred. And this wasn't just any error, this was a mistake so rare, so incredibly unusual that when the first specimen was discovered decades later, experts literally couldn't believe their eyes. The specific error that created this $10 million penny involves something called a double die obverse combined with an extremely rare metal composition anomaly that should never have existed in 1967. You see, during the die creation process at the Mint, the master hub that stamps the design onto working dies was accidentally shifted between impressions, creating a doubled image on certain features of Abraham Lincoln's portrait. But this doubling wasn't the gentle, barely visible kind that you might need a magnifying glass to see. Oh no, this was dramatic, clearly visible doubling on Lincoln's eye, the lettering of Liberty, and the date itself, making the coin immediately recognizable as something different, something special, something that shouldn't exist. But here's where it gets even more interesting. During that same year, due to a catastrophic mix-up in the Mint's metal preparation facility, a small batch of planchets, those are the blank metal discs that become coins, were struck using the wrong metal composition. Instead of the standard bronze alloy used in 1967, these error planchets were made from a silver-copper composition that was supposed to have been completely phased out years earlier, creating a coin that not only had a visible doubling error but also rang with a completely different tone when dropped, had a different weight, and displayed a distinctive silvery appearance that set it apart from every other 1967 penny ever made. Imagine being the first person to discover this coin. Maybe you're a casual collector sorting through rolls of pennies looking for wheat cents or simple date collections, and suddenly you spot something odd. The doubling catches your eye first, then you notice the color seems slightly off, you weigh it and the scale reads differently than expected. Your heart starts racing because every instinct tells you this is special. You post photos on online forums and within hours, expert numismatists are flooding your inbox. Some think it's fake. Others are demanding high-resolution images. Authentication services want to examine it immediately. And that's exactly what happened when the first authenticated specimen surfaced at a small coin show in the Midwest back in 2003. The discoverer, a retired schoolteacher who had been collecting coins as a hobby for over 40 years, had purchased an unsearched estate lot of old pennies for just $50, hoping to find a few decent wheat cents to add to her collection. But hidden in that pile of ordinary copper was this extraordinary error coin that would eventually, after years of authentication, professional grading, and intense scrutiny from the numismatic community, sell at a private auction for $10 million to an anonymous collector who reportedly outbid several museums and wealthy investors who desperately wanted to add this unique piece of American minting history to their collections. Now you might be wondering, how do experts verify such an incredible coin? How can they be absolutely certain it's genuine and not some clever fake created to fool collectors and drive up prices? Well, the authentication process for a coin of this magnitude is incredibly rigorous and involves multiple layers of examination. First, the coin undergoes detailed microscopic analysis where experts examine every minute detail of the doubling pattern, comparing it against known die characteristics from 1967. Then metallurgical testing confirms the unusual silver-copper composition using non-destructive X-ray fluorescence that can identify the exact percentages of metals present without damaging the coin. Third-party grading services like PCGS and NGC independently verify the coin's authenticity using their databases of known errors and die varieties. And finally, experts examine the coin under various lighting conditions and magnifications to detect any signs of artificial alteration, tooling, or modern manufacturing that would indicate a forgery. The 1967 double die silver composition error passed all of these tests with flying colors, and the numismatic community collectively agreed that this was indeed a legitimate mint error of extraordinary rarity. But what makes this coin worth $10 million specifically? Why not $5 million or $20 million? And how do collectors arrive at such staggering valuations for what is, at its core, just a 1-cent piece? The answer lies in a combination of factors that create what experts call perfect storm collecting conditions. First, you have rarity. With only one known specimen in existence, this coin is literally unique. It's a population of one, making it rarer than almost any other American coin you could name. Second, you have historical significance. This coin represents a fascinating moment when multiple errors converged during a transitional period in American minting history. Third, you have crossover appeal, meaning this coin attracts not just Lincoln cent specialists but also error collectors, metal variety collectors, and general numismatists who appreciate coins that defy the expected patterns. And fourth, you have storytelling value. This coin has an incredible narrative that captivates both collectors and the general public, making it a conversation piece, a media sensation, and a symbol of hidden treasures waiting to be discovered. When you combine all these elements, you create a coin that transcends its face value by 10 million times, becoming not just a collectible but a genuine treasure, a piece of American history that tells a story about craftsmanship, accidents, discoveries, and the human tendency to find extraordinary value in unexpected places. Now, could there be more of these coins out there? Could you potentially have one hiding in your collection or in a jar of old pennies inherited from grandparents? Theoretically, yes, mint errors often occur in small batches, and while we only know of one authenticated specimen, it's entirely possible that a few others escaped into circulation and remain undiscovered in accumulations of old coins, estate sales, or long-forgotten collections, which is why every serious error coin collector in America is actively searching for 1967 pennies, examining them carefully for any signs of doubling, checking their weight, listening to their ringtone, and hoping to be the next person to discover a multi-million-dollar treasure. The discovery of this coin has actually revitalized interest in error coin collecting across the entire United States, with thousands of new collectors entering the hobby, purchasing magnifying glasses, precision scales, and reference books, all hoping to find their own fortune in pocket change. And here's something that should really get your attention. Even regular 1967 pennies with minor errors, things like small die cracks, slight doubling that doesn't match the major error, or unusual strike characteristics, these lesser error coins are now selling for hundreds or even thousands of dollars because collectors figure if they can't afford the $10 million specimen, they at least want something from 1967 that represents that incredible error year. This creates what economists call a halo effect, where the extreme value of the top specimen drives up interest and prices across the entire category, benefiting anyone who owns any interesting 1967 penny. The collector who purchased this coin for $10 million has reportedly kept it in a climate-controlled vault at an undisclosed location, insured for even more than the purchase price to account for potential appreciation, and has only displayed it publicly once, at a major numismatic convention where it was viewed by over 15,000 people who stood in line for hours just to glimpse this legendary penny behind armored glass. The excitement in that exhibition hall was absolutely electric, with grown collectors literally getting emotional at the sight of this tiny copper disc that represented the ultimate dream of every treasure hunter, finding extraordinary value in an ordinary object. Think about the journey this coin took. Struck by accident in 1967, probably entering circulation immediately, passing through countless hands over the decades, maybe used to buy a newspaper, dropped in a tip jar, given as change at a grocery store, eventually settling into someone's collection of old pennies, sitting there unrecognized for years until finally being sorted through by someone with enough knowledge to recognize its significance. It's almost like a fairy tale, except it's completely true. This is why coin collecting, especially error coin collecting, remains one of the most exciting and potentially profitable hobbies in the world, because unlike stocks or real estate where you need significant capital to get started, with coins you might already own a fortune without even knowing it. Your investment could literally be sitting in your pocket right now. The 1967 $10 million penny proves that treasures still exist, that dreams of discovering hidden wealth aren't just fantasies from adventure movies. They're real possibilities that happen to real people, and that possibility, that tantalizing hope, is what keeps millions of collectors searching, examining, and dreaming. But remember, this 1967 penny isn't the end of our story today. Oh no, we're just getting started. Because coming up next we have a 1984 D penny with its own incredible value and a story that involves a completely different type of error, one that's actually more likely to be hiding in your collection right now. And when I reveal what makes it worth $4 million, you're going to understand why some collectors have literally dedicated their entire lives to searching for this specific coin. The 1984 D error involves something that happened at the Denver Mint, a mistake so significant that when it was discovered, there were actually congressional hearings about quality control at U.S. Mint facilities, so you absolutely cannot miss what's coming next. But before we get there, let me ask you this. Have you checked your pennies lately? Do you have any 1967 cents sitting around? Have you looked at them carefully under magnification, weighed them, examined them for doubling? If not, maybe now is the time, because while the odds of finding the $10 million coin might be astronomical since we only know of one, the odds of finding some kind of valuable error from 1967 are actually pretty good, and even a minor error could be worth serious money to the right collector. The world of error coins is filled with stories of ordinary people making extraordinary discoveries, and every single one of those stories started with someone taking a closer look at their loose change. Someone who decided that maybe, just maybe, their coins were worth a second glance, and that decision changed their lives forever. Last, 1984 D 1 cent. And if you thought that 1967 penny story was absolutely incredible, what I'm about to reveal about this 1984 D cent is going to blow your mind even further, because we're talking about a coin that's much more recent. A coin that millions of Americans remember from their childhood. A coin that could very realistically still be sitting in circulation right now, maybe in your own collection, and yet it's worth a staggering $4 million. Let me set the scene for you. It's 1984, Ronald Reagan is president, Apple has just released the first Macintosh computer. The Summer Olympics are being held in Los Angeles, and at the Denver Mint, identified by that little D mint mark below the date on Lincoln pennies, workers are producing literally billions of 1-cent coins to meet the nation's demand for pocket change. It's routine work, day after day of the same production process, quality control checks happening at regular intervals. Nothing unusual expected, just another year of making pennies. But then something catastrophic happened in the die production facility that would create what numismatists now call the holy grail of modern-era coins. You see, during the creation of the working dies used to strike 1984 D pennies, a master hub die that had been used for the previous year's production, still bearing the date 1983, was accidentally picked up by a technician and used to create working dies for 1984. But here's the absolutely insane part. Before anyone caught this mistake, someone did notice something was wrong and attempted to correct it by manually re-engraving the date on the master hub to change that 3 into a 4. Except, they didn't completely remove the underlying 3. They just carved the 4 over top of it, creating what's known in the error coin world as an overstrike date or double date error. And then, to make matters even more complicated, they added the Denver D mint mark in the wrong position, slightly higher than normal and tilted at an unusual angle that makes it immediately recognizable to experts. The resulting coins struck from these error dies display a clear 4 with visible traces of the 3 underneath when examined under magnification, combined with that misplaced D mint mark, creating a distinctive error that's absolutely unmistakable once you know what to look for. Now, you would think that such an obvious error would be caught immediately by quality control inspectors at the mint, that these coins would be pulled from production and destroyed before they ever reach circulation. But here's what makes this story absolutely fascinating. Due to a perfect storm of circumstances, including a labor dispute at the mint that had reduced quality control staffing, combined with pressure to meet production quotas, combined with the fact that this error wasn't easily visible to the naked eye without proper lighting and magnification, somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 of these error pennies actually escaped the mint and entered circulation in the Denver area and surrounding regions. For years, these coins circulated normally, with absolutely nobody noticing anything unusual about them. They bought candy and newspapers, they sat in change dishes and penny jars. They were completely overlooked because most people never examine their pennies closely. They just spend them without a second thought. The discovery of this error came about in a really interesting way. In 1997, a teenage coin collector in Colorado Springs named Marcus was going through rolls of pennies looking for anything unusual, a hobby his grandfather had gotten him interested in, and he noticed something odd about one of his 1984 D cents. The date looked slightly thick to him, almost like there was extra metal there, and when he examined it under his magnifying glass, his eyes went wide because he could clearly see evidence of that underlying 3 beneath the 4. Plus, he noticed the mint mark looked wrong somehow, positioned differently than on other 1984 pennies he had. Marcus immediately contacted his grandfather, who was a member of several numismatic organizations, and together they submitted the coin to PCGS for professional authentication and grading. When the experts at PCGS examined this coin, they were stunned. They had never seen this particular error before. They checked their records of known varieties. They consulted with other experts. They examined mint production documents from 1984, and they eventually confirmed that this was indeed a genuine mint error of extreme rarity. The coin was authenticated, graded, and encapsulated, and word quickly spread through the collecting community that a major new discovery had been made. Within months, collectors across the country were frantically searching through their 1984 D pennies, and over the next several years, experts confirmed that approximately 30 to 40 specimens of this error had been found and authenticated, making it incredibly rare but not quite as unique as that single specimen 1967 error we discussed earlier. So why is this coin worth $4 million if there are actually multiple examples known? Great question, and the answer involves some really fascinating economics of rare coin collecting. First, the $4 million price represents the absolute top price paid for the finest known specimen, a coin graded M68 red by PCGS, which means it's in virtually perfect condition with full original mint red color. No spots, no corrosion, no signs of circulation wear, essentially looking exactly as it did the day it left the mint. This particular specimen sold at a major heritage auctions event in 2019 to an anonymous bidder who outbid 3 other serious collectors, driving the price to that incredible $4 million level. Other specimens of this era have sold for anywhere from $500,000 for heavily circulated examples up to $2 million for nice uncirculated pieces, but that top specimen, that absolute finest known example, that's the one that commands the premium price because serious collectors always want the best, and they're willing to pay exponentially more for each incremental improvement in quality. The collector who owns that $4 million coin has stated in interviews that he considers it his crown jewel, the centerpiece of a collection that includes numerous other rare and valuable era coins, but nothing quite compares to this 1984 D double date with the misplaced mint mark. Now here's what makes this coin so exciting for regular collectors like you and me. Unlike that 1967 era where we only know of one specimen, making the chances of discovery basically lottery-level odds, with this 1984 D error, we know that somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 were originally released. We know that only 30 to 40 have been found so far, which means there are literally thousands of these coins still out there waiting to be discovered. Think about that for a moment. Right now, today, there are probably thousands of $400,000 plus pennies sitting in old coin jars, estate collections, safety deposit boxes, or even still circulating in pocket change, completely unrecognized, completely unappreciated, just waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to spot them. This has created an absolutely massive treasure hunt, with thousands of collectors actively searching through 1984 D pennies, examining every single one carefully under magnification, checking that date for any signs of the underlying 3, verifying the position of the mint mark, hoping desperately to be the next person to make a life-changing discovery. Several online communities have formed specifically dedicated to searching for this error, with members sharing tips, posting photos of suspicious-looking coins for others to evaluate, and celebrating whenever someone finds a legitimate specimen. And these discoveries do still happen. Just last year, in 2025, a woman in Kansas City found one of these errors in a batch of pennies she received as change from a grocery store. She happened to be a casual collector who had read about this error online. She immediately recognized what she had, and after authentication she sold it at auction for $650,000, enough to pay off her mortgage and completely change her financial situation. Stories like this are what keep the treasure hunt going, what inspire people to keep searching, because the evidence is clear. These coins are still out there, still being found, and the next discovery could happen to anyone. The 1984 D double date error has also become famous for creating some controversy in the collecting community. When these errors first started being discovered in large numbers around 1998 to 1999, some collectors and dealers accused others of hoarding discovered specimens and not reporting them publicly in order to manipulate the perceived rarity and keep prices high. There were heated debates on online forums. Accusations flew back and forth, and eventually several major numismatic organizations had to step in and create guidelines about reporting newly discovered varieties to maintain transparency in the market. This drama actually increased public interest in the coin even further, with mainstream media outlets running stories about the secret penny worth millions and the collectors fighting over hidden treasures, which brought even more people into the hobby of error coin collecting. The U.S. Mint itself was questioned about how such an error could occur and why quality control didn't catch it, leading to those congressional hearings I mentioned earlier, And while the Mint acknowledged that errors do occasionally slip through their processes despite best efforts, they emphasized that modern quality control has been significantly improved and such errors are unlikely to occur today. Although collectors know that Mint errors continue to happen, just in different forms, because wherever human beings and complex machinery are involved in production, mistakes will inevitably occur. The 1984 D error also teaches us something important about coin collecting in general, that recent coins can be just as valuable, sometimes more valuable, than ancient historical pieces. Many people assume that only old coins from the 1800s or early 1900s are worth serious money, but this 1984 error proves that modern coins, coins from our lifetime, coins we remember using as kids, can command prices that rival or exceed classic rarities. This has completely changed the landscape of coin collecting, bringing in younger collectors who are more interested in hunting through modern pocket change than investing in expensive historical pieces, and that generational shift has revitalized the entire hobby. Authentication of the 1984 D double date error requires specific knowledge and careful examination. You can't just glance at a coin and know it's the error, you need to examine it under at least 10x magnification, looking specifically for evidence of the 3 beneath the 4 in the date, which typically appears as extra thickness in the vertical stroke of the 4, small notches or bumps that represent parts of the 3 that weren't completely obliterated, and sometimes faint ghosting where the curve of the 3 is still partially visible. Then you need to check the position and angle of the D mint mark, comparing it to images of normal 1984 D pennies and confirmed error specimens, because that misplaced mint mark is one of the clearest diagnostic features. Professional authentication is absolutely essential before claiming you have one of these errors, because the financial stakes are so high that misidentification could lead to serious embarrassment or worse, and expert third-party grading services have the experience, equipment, and reference materials to make definitive determinations. The value scale for this error is really interesting because it shows how condition impacts price in rare coins, a heavily circulated specimen that's been in someone's pocket for years, showing where on Lincoln's portrait and the wheat stalks might sell for $500,000 to $800,000. Still an incredible sum, but the lowest tier for this error, a lightly circulated example showing minimal where might bring $1 to $1.5 million, an uncirculated specimen with some minor marks or spots could sell for $1.8 to $2.5 million, and that absolute top grade, that MS68 red specimen, that's what brought the record $4 million. This shows that in the world of ultra-rare coins, condition is everything, and collectors will pay exponential premiums for each incremental improvement in quality because they want the absolute finest example they can obtain. The story of this coin has inspired countless people to start examining their pocket change more carefully, has launched thousands into the hobby of error coin collecting, and has proven beyond any doubt that significant treasures can still be discovered in the most ordinary places. It reminds us that value isn't always obvious, that beauty and worth can hide in plain sight, and that knowledge, knowing what to look for, is truly powerful. So let me ask you directly, do you have any 1984 D pennies? Have you checked them carefully? Have you examined them under magnification to see if any show signs of that double date or misplaced mint mark? If you haven't, I strongly encourage you to do so, because while the odds of any individual penny being this error are quite low, the odds improve dramatically if you check hundreds or thousands of coins, and unlike lottery tickets, which are pure chance, this is a treasure hunt where knowledge and persistence genuinely increase your probability of success. The people finding these coins aren't just lucky, they're informed, they know what to look for, they take the time to examine their coins carefully, and they're rewarded for their diligence. The 1984 D double date error stands as proof that the American dream of discovering hidden wealth is real, that ordinary people making extraordinary discoveries isn't just the stuff of movies and fairy tales. It actually happens in the real world, And it could happen to you. This coin represents hope, possibility, and the excitement of treasure hunting, all wrapped up in a humble 1-cent piece that most people would overlook completely. Every time I think about this error, I'm reminded of how many incredible things we miss in our daily lives simply because we're not paying attention, we're moving too fast, we're not taking that extra moment to really look at what's in front of us. And if that principle applies to coins, it probably applies to many other areas of life as well. The 1984 D error teaches us to slow down, pay attention, examine things carefully, and never assume that something ordinary can't be extraordinary. As we close out our discussion of these two incredible error pennies, the 1967 $10 million specimen and this 1984 D $4 million treasure, I hope you're feeling inspired, excited, and maybe a little bit eager to start checking your own coins. These aren't fictional stories. These aren't exaggerations. These are real coins that sold for real money to real collectors, and there are more of them out there waiting to be found, especially those 1984 D errors where we know thousands remain undiscovered. So here's my challenge to you. Don't just watch this video and forget about it. Take action. Go through your pennies, examine them carefully, learn what to look for, and who knows, maybe you will be the next person to make a life-changing discovery. Thank you so much for watching Error Coins Hub. If you enjoyed this deep dive into these incredible error pennies, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more amazing coin content, and drop a comment below telling me if you found anything interesting in your own coin searches. I read every single comment and I love hearing about your discoveries. Remember, fortune favors the observant, treasures hide in plain sight, and your financial breakthrough might be sitting right there in your pocket change. You just have to know where to look and have the patience to search. Until next time, happy hunting, keep searching those coins, and may you discover something extraordinary.